Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, it's the day of the fight, February 27th, 2016, and there's a betting hedge I like, right? This isn't a prediction on who wins the fight. It's really more a prediction on the manner of the fight, right? And as people know, I believe that underdogs are mispriced in boxing, right? Especially when you're dealing with a guy as talented and as experienced as Kiko Martinez. Now, incredibly, casinos are giving Martinez 10-1 odds, right? 10-1 odds. Check your casino, right? In his fight against Leo Santa Cruz. Now, I think the world of Santa Cruz, right? Santa Cruz is someone who I've heard online opined would beat Guillermo Rigondeaux because of superior volume, right? But Santa Cruz is a guy who I view as young, in a, let's say, peak zone of his career. Not the most skilled guy, right? But young. He's living off youth. He's kind of like Roy Jones, where you see the defects. You notice Santa Cruz doesn't have a back foot game. You notice that Santa Cruz can't slow down the pace of the fight. You notice that Santa Cruz gets hit too often. His fights descend into shootouts. And you understand that as he ages, once he gets past the physical prime of his career, his game is going to dip just like Roy Jones's game dipped, right? So, the hedge I like here is Kiko Martinez to win at 10-1 odds, hedged with Leo Santa Cruz by KO at 1-2 odds, a -200, right? Let's talk about an actual bet you can make where you would win if either happens. But first, let me just say, understand the risk involved. If the fight goes to a decision and Santa Cruz wins the fight, you lose it all, right? This is dangerous. It's risky, right? If this were a bottle of medicine, it would be marked unsafe. This video is really only intended for risk takers and gamblers who understand when they make bets at the casino, there's a chance they could lose it. Now, let's talk about why this fight ends by stoppage, right? Let's talk about an actual bet first. Let me hold that thought. So if I were to bet $5 on Kiko Martinez at these odds, if I win the bet, I win 10 times the 5. I win $50 in profit. Plus, the casino gives me the 5 back, right? On the other side of the play, knowing that if I hit on side A, I win 50, right? By risking $5. On the other side of the play, if I bet 20 on Santa Cruz to win by KO, then if I win that part of the bet, I get back 10. So understand, in the scenario I just gave you, if Santa Cruz wins by KO, I win $5, right? Not too bad, in my opinion, on a $25 layout where I'm taking a prohibitive favorite, right? Conversely, if lightning strikes, if Kiko Martinez wins the fight, could be by decision, could be by stoppage, however he wins the fight. If Kiko Martinez wins the fight, then I win 50 minus 20, I win $30 back, right? Not bad. Not bad for an initial outlay of $25. right? And of course, that's 30 in profit. I also would get back the $5 I bet on Martinez to win. Now, let me say this. Can we agree that Kiko Martinez is extremely experienced? Folks, you have a big fight happening in the UK later today between Scott Quigg and Carl Frampton. And Kiko Martinez has already fought both of them, right? Understand, he's been in the ring with elites. Now, I know many of you are going to say, didn't he lose to both of them? Let's remember, he goes the distance with Carl Frampton. He does get caught by Scott Quigg early, but he has the skills to go the distance with an unbeaten Carl Frampton, right? In Frampton's backyard. More importantly, look at some of the other guys he's fought and look at the outcomes there. Azumi Hasegawa. Kiko Martinez wins that fight by KO. Jeffrey Mathibula. Kiko Martinez wins that fight by KO. Jonathan Romero. Kiko Martinez wins that fight by KO. Now, I don't say this lightly, but there's not a person in the division who should be favored over Kiko Martinez where gamblers like me can get 10-1 odds on Kiko Martinez, right? Keep in mind, too, that Leo Santa Cruz is front foot heavy. The fight is taking place in Southern California, where the boxing culture likes action, right? This isn't, let's say New York City, where fans are into great defense, where a guy can be on his back foot and the fans are cheering, right? No, this isn't Las Vegas, where the fans have a lot of title fights and are really in tune with scoring and boxing nuance. No, this is Southern California. Think about the history of Southern California, right? The Olympic Auditorium, right? The StubHub Center, the Fabulous Forum, right? There, the fighters who really are lionized are the guys who come in and fight, right? Guys from the area, Shane Mosley, talk about how he fights like a Mexican, right? Guys not from the area, Gennady Golovkin, right? Talks about how, he fights like a Mexican, right? These guys are really talking about a Southern California boxing culture that really prides itself on fighters being able to dish out punishment on their front foot and take punishment back, right? That's what's expected in Southern California. That's who Leo Santa Cruz is, right? He's a guy who wants to come forward. He's a guy who wants to throw because he's young, because he's in his physical prime, right? He hasn't had to worry about things like stamina, right? He hasn't had to worry about things like taking punches, right? He's in that green part of his career where he can throw caution to the wind. Now, let me say this about Kiko Martinez. Understand that Martinez is a complicated fighter because he can, first off, fight you in your backyard. That Hasegawa fight was in Japan, right? The Frampton fight was in the UK, right? Kiko Martinez is accustomed to hopping on planes and traveling to your arena. He also is the kind of guy who moves his head in ways, kind of like Danny Garcia, that makes it hard to read where his punches are coming from. In other words, he doesn't look at where he's going to land the punch when he throws the punch. So if you're looking at him and he's looking over here, you might not know that that right hand is coming from this angle, right? He has timing. He knows how to counterpunch guys who are over aggressive, right? Other guys are coming forward convinced in their offensive skills. Jonathan Romero, right? They're coming forward. They're convinced in their offensive skills. And Martinez literally comes in, is looking the other way, right? Has his head low, is at awkward angles, and he's literally trying to hit you when you're not expecting it, right? Throw unorthodox punches. It's a hard style to duplicate in sparring, right? And land counters on you. Now, a guy like Leo Santa Cruz is going to be in front of him to get hit with the counters, right? Santa Cruz is going to come in. He's going to know that the crowd expects him to fight. We'll call it a Robert the Ghost Guerrero fight, right? A lot of action, a lot of punches thrown, right? War in the trenches. Santa Cruz knows that. That's what the crowd expects, right? Kiko Martinez knows Santa Cruz is going to come at him. Now, I'm not saying Kiko Martinez wins the fight, right? I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying, though, is Martinez has a greater than 10% chance to win the fight. This is just an odds play. I'm expecting action between a young champion who likes to come forward on his front foot in a venue where that's what the crowd is going to want and expect and cheer for, against a cagey veteran who's been in the ring with elite competition, right? Who has gotten knockouts in big fights, or who himself has gotten knocked out. Scott Quigg takes him out in 2 rounds, right? In big fights. And you mean to tell me that you're getting a minus 200, right? Reasonably priced odds on Santa Cruz by KO. I just don't see this fight going 12 rounds. Understand, Leo Santa Cruz is much more aggressive than Carl Frampton, right? Martinez was able to last 12 rounds against Frampton. Santa Cruz is more aggressive. He's going to push the issue more, right? I think something's going to happen. If I had to pick an outcome on this fight, that outcome would be that somebody gets stopped. But if the casino is going to give me 10-1 odds on the Kiko Martinez side of the aisle, then I need to swing for the fences. I can't leave those odds on the table by taking a simple over-under bet that doesn't pay off as much. Nor do I want to limit myself to Kiko Martinez by KO when Kiko Martinez simply to win the fight is so cheap and available. So the bet I'm recommending, because I believe somebody gets stopped in this fight, and I know Santa Cruz doesn't hit that hard, but understand, if Santa Cruz lets his hands go and dazes Kiko Martinez, right? People need to understand, especially if that happens early in the fight, which has happened in a lot of Santa Cruz fights, right? Martinez is going to be extremely vulnerable, as he was in the Scott Quigg fight. The bet I'm recommending is Kiko Martinez at 10-1 to win the fight. I know it sounds crazy, but all I can say is the casino's more than compensating you for the risk. I like Kiko Martinez at 10-1, simply to win the fight, hedged with Leo Santa Cruz by stoppage at minus 200, 1-2, right? You can structure the bet so that you can win if either happens. You could also structure the bet if you truly want to, swing for the fences to break even if Santa Cruz wins by KO, but to make a bounty if Kiko Martinez pulls the upset. Let me say this too. Scott Quigg, I know there's a lot of talk about Scott Quigg, his boxing and stuff like that. Don't doubt Scott Quigg's power, right? He's an athlete. He's an endurance guy who hits hard. right? He hits very hard, right? And so, as you look at Kiko Martinez's record, I know the public right now remembers Kiko Martinez getting blown out by Scott Quigg. Just understand, Martinez is a world-class fighter who has beaten big names like Kazumi Hasegawa by stoppage. He's a credible opponent, right? Credible opponents should not be 10-1 underdogs. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. Leave your comments for me here online. I hope you visit us at gamblersadvisory.com and dwyervip.com. Thanks for stopping by.